Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Wakakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is Doomsday Crows Arrive. All right, and I did a video yesterday. I had no Wi-Fi, basically no signal, and I barely got signal now, but I got a little bit. You know, in that video I did on my phone, so it's still uploading on my phone from yesterday. Right, it was just a quick video. I read the prophet Ecclesiasticus chapter 36, a prayer. So it's still uploading. But anyway, like I said, I got a little Wi-Fi now. So Doomsday Crows Arrive, and this title is taken directly from this video here. It says Iran bombs main power station. Doomsday Crows arrive. So probably gotta check this back out again, because there's some information I was waiting for to see what exactly is happening regarding the situation with the infrastructure of Iran and Israel, because Nero 47 said that he would bomb Iran's infrastructure in 48 hours, but then he pulled back, and then Wednesday came, or Tuesday actually came, and I think they did it. But I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. I have to double check because I'm not really getting any information. So it says Iran bombed the main power station here. This means that everything will go dark. I don't know what Iran's situation regarding their infrastructure is, so I gotta look into it, because at that point, it would definitely be the point of no return, because it'd take years to rebuild what they have destroyed, right? And then to make way for their FF events and all of that. All right. But anyway, the interesting part was played here at the latter in the video. Doomsday Crows arrive.
Okay, so not only did Israel attack the main power grid, Iran targeted the main power grid of Israel, the Khadera or Hadera power grid. And we could, of course, see the explosion, very clear, very intense. I mean, there is no denying that it was the actual power plant that was hit from the videos that came. They targeted this base too. There was something very interesting that happened in Israel today. As a matter of fact, some people in Israel are very worried. They're thinking like that there's a bad omen today. Why is there a bad omen in Israel? Well, you wouldn't believe it, guys. This is seriously, as in, we don't usually talk about the supernatural or whatever, or weird things. We're trying to stay factual.
And actually, now that I think about it, he just said supernatural, but I already got the scriptures regarding these crows that came, but the video that's uploading, that was the prayer. The prayer was to show new signs. But these devils, they wouldn't understand. Just like he just said, he doesn't, whatever he just said about the supernatural. But the Most High Yahweh Bashmi is about to show more signs. All right,
as much as possible. But look at the level of the crows that were flying over Israel today.
Right, and I don't believe this guy here is a Edomite. I don't believe he's an Edomite, because there's a difference between the rest of the heathen and these Edomites. Right, these Edomites, pursuant to Obadiah 118, are going to be done away with, right, in our kingdom after 1,000 years. Right, but the rest of the heathen will go out and live their life basically.
I mean, like I said, we try and stay factual as much as possible. But I'm sure many people weren't happy with the sight of black crows, right, flying over in huge numbers in Israel. I mean, what were they doing? Were they warning them that the Iranian missiles are coming, or are they preparing them for doomsday? That's it. Doom and gloom is coming upon your entity.
All right, so I'm gonna restart at the end, and we'll watch it all the way through. Whatever we got to say, but the scriptures tell the fowls of the air to get ready for a feast, because this is World War III and Yahweh Shai is on the way. All right, this is Revelations chapter 19, verse 11. It says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war." This is Yahweh Shai, right? Yahweh Shai is on the way. "His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself, which goes into his rank." All right, and these are the crowns that he's about to take away from the nations, right? Because he's coming to set up judgment, set up a rulership, right? The divine kingdom. It says, "And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai." All right. It's Isaiah 63:1. "Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that tripped in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. Right? For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come." Right? So Yahweh Shai is coming to do a great slaughter. All right. He won't stain up any, his clothing or anything like that. Right? Just the same. Okay. It says his name was, let me see, it says the word. Verse 13 says, "And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai." Right, the Word was made flesh. That's Yahweh Shai. John 1:14, it says, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bare witness of him and cried, saying, This was he of whom I spake. He that cometh after me is preferred before me, for he was before me." Right, and that's Yahweh Shai. It says, "And of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahweh Shai. No man have seen Yahweh at any time, the only begotten Son," which it says, "No man have seen Yahweh at any time, the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him." All right, so of course Yahweh Shai was close to Yahweh, right? But the Word made flesh is Yahweh Shai. All right. It says Revelations 19:14, "And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean." Right, what is this going into? To the return of our Lord. Let me get Matthew 24 first. Matthew 24. It says immediately, Matthew 24:29, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn." All right, let me make sure this is still good over here. Like I said, bad signal. All right, dude was just talking about doom and gloom. All right, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." The angels. "They shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds from one end of heaven to the other." All right, you get 2 Ezra chapter 13. Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heavens." Right, so the man is Yahweh Shai. With the thousands of heavens is the angels. "And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice like as the earth filleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there were gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. This is going to be World War III. They're all going to gather over there in that Levant region, right over there by the Middle East, over there near Israel, where the birds and the crows are flying. Right? It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, fathership, right, a chariot. It says, and flew upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. Right, so he's going to be the laser beams, the fire beams, right, coming from the chariots. It says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Right, so Ezra's seeing the division of Yahushua coming and destroying the armies, right? They're fighting World War III. All right, it says Revelation 19 and 14, and the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that would it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty Yahweh, right? Bashim Yahushua. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? So on his garment, his clothing, it says, and I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great power, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet. So, America, the Roman Catholic Church, being a false prophet, the beast being America in the system, right? It says that, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. Right. So we're gonna get, people. I'm not gonna get that shit. People gonna get the chip. All right. People gonna get the chip, and World War III is gonna be happening on the background. All right. It says, these both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone, which is the nuclear missiles that will be shot. So in the midst of that, World War III happening, people getting chipped up, the elect being protected pursuant to Isaiah 65 around 13. All of this is happening, and boom, the button is pressed, the missiles is sent. Yahushua pulls up, send the angels around, gathering his elect. All right, the beast is taken down, the false prophet is taken down, the armies are taken down, the fowls are going to be eating the flesh. It says, and the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth. And the fowls were filled with their flesh. So the birds are going to be eating the fowls. The birds are going to be eating, these people. We go over here to Ezekiel 39, verse 1. It says, therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog. Gog is Russia. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Russia is going to be joined with many people in these last days. Right? And we can already see that happening. Russia has become a superpower. Meshach and Tubal going into Turkey, right, in that area over there with the people over there near Turkey. It says, I will turn thee back, and I will leave but the sixth part of thee. So Russia is going to be built back up to a great military power. That's why it says, I will turn thee back, and I'll leave but the sixth part of thee. So it's going to be a part of his armies or his people. They're going to remain in the land of Russia, but the army is going to go up against Israel. It says, I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. Right, the north over there in Russia is going to come against Israel. right? And that's going to be happening because you can already see that Iran, China, and Russia, they're together pretty much. So with this Israel coming against Iran, Russia is not happy about that. All right. It says, "And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand." Right. So ultimately, what? Even though Russia has become this great power, they're not going to stand against the Prince of Princes. Right. They're not going to beat Yahweh Shai. All right. But the scriptures do say they will shoot the missiles on American Israel, though. Okay. It says, "Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured." Right? "Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashman Washah." All right. So again, these armies that go over here to this area, they're all going to be eaten up by birds, right? Ultimately burnt up and destroyed by the Lord Yahweh Shai, right? When he returns. Jeremiah 15 and 1 says, "Then said the Lord Yahweh Bashman Washah unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth." Now, this people is talking about our people, right? The Israelites. It says, "And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashman Washai, such as are for death to death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity. And I will point over them 4 kinds, said the Lord Yahweh Bashman Washai, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy." Right? So this is another scripture here showing that the fowls, will eat, even our people, right? Because you have Jacob's trouble, right? The great death is going to be taking place all over the world. All right. And on this side here in America, they're going to have dogs to tear, fowls, and beasts of the earth to destroy and devour, picking at your brains, your eyeballs, and things like that. You're going to have humans eating humans, right? They might chop your leg up. Somehow you limp away on one leg, and you fall down or something, and now you got a bird pecking at it or something, right? That's what's going to be happening. It's going to be real bad out here, and it's coming soon, So, that's pretty much all I got. Let me back this up right here to show you again.
Attack the main power grid. Iran targeted the main power grid of Israel, the Khadera or Hadera power grid. And we could, of course, see the explosion, very clear, very intense. I mean, there is no denying that it was the actual power plant that was hit from the videos that came. They targeted this base too.
And, I don't know if this is AI or whatever, but I don't think so. And the scripture says it's going to happen.
There was something very interesting that happened in Israel today. As a matter of fact, some people in Israel are very worried. They're thinking like that there's a bad omen today. Why is there a bad omen in Israel? Well, you wouldn't believe it, guys. This is seriously, as in, we don't usually talk about the supernatural or whatever, or weird things. We're trying to stay factual as much as possible. But look at the level of the crows that were flying over Israel today. I mean, like I said, we try and stay factual as much as possible. But I'm sure many people weren't happy with the sight of black crows, right, flying over in huge numbers in Israel. I mean, what were they doing? Were they warning them that the Iranian missiles are coming, or are they preparing them for doomsday? That's it. Doom and gloom is coming upon your entity. Look at the numbers. And if you know the crow as an animal, it's a very, very smart animal. If you don't know about the crow. And the whole crow family, crows, ravens, very smart. If they want to, for example, open a pack of food or whatever, they can't open it with their beak. They'll put it on the floor next to a road so a car can go on it and open it, and then they'll eat it. They will hide some food, and so that other animals don't have it, they will cover it with something else. They have all sorts of tricks. They put stones in water bottles or jars to drag the water. So very smart animal. And they're really vengeful too. So if you annoy them, they will remember you. They will remember you, and they will come and constantly hit you and call their mates on you. So now it looks like there's a party happening in central Palestine, central occupied Palestine, with the crows flying all over the place. And many people have been speaking about this being a warning for them, right? That something bigger is coming. Again, you know, I like to stay factual with all of the info, but that was quite an interesting thing. Right now, misinformation.
All right. You know, hey, Lord willing, you edify from the lesson. Shalom to the whole elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.